Hi, servus, and hello. I'm Andy Host, a singer and songwriter from Germany, and I'm obviously going through a midlife crisis. Others take up motorcycling at the age of 40, and I now make YouTube videos, obviously. Today, I want to talk to you about the best way to prepare for guitar recording sessions, especially if this is your first recording experience. These tips will hopefully save you a lot of frustration and possibly money if you have rented a recording studio. I'd say waste no time and get started right away. Tip number one, tempo and timing. The synth sounds almost too banal. It sounds like breathing to get some air, but make sure you practice your tempo and timing in advance with a metronome, a click, or a drum computer. You've played your song 100 times and the tempo has never been a problem for you? During your rehearsal with your bandmates, the individual band members can always adjust to the drummer's tempo, and if necessary, you all vary within the song without even realizing it. But as soon as you're sitting in the studio with your headphones on and that relentless clicking sound suddenly chases you through the song, you might feel that way. It's usually only then that you realize how much variance in the song timing you've previously accepted without a second thought. When it comes to recording, however, there is no more pardon. Yes, I know, playing guitar on a click is as exciting as watching a cow eat grass. Fascinating. But back to the topic. You get the feeling that during the rehearsals, the click kills everything that makes music creative and fun. But I promise you, once you've got a bit of routine with it, you don't even notice it anymore, except when you're recording in the studio. Your riffs and rhythms will automatically become more conscious and precise over time. Let's move on to tip number two, your guitar sound. Make sure you think about your guitar sound in detail beforehand. Really, take your time and tweak it until you are satisfied. Don't just make sure that you like the sound, but also avoid nasty frequencies, rattling on the guitar or amp and stuff like that. If you have several overlapping guitars in certain passages of a song, make sure that the sounds are sufficiently separated from each other. Otherwise, it will sound like mush on the recordings. The same applies if you are recording synthesizers or a piano, for example. Make sure that the sounds don't get in the way of the guitar sounds or the way around. Of course, the mixing engineer can help here and there with EQ, etc., and will do so anyway. But the more he has to intervene in the sound, the further the sound moves away from what the musician originally had in mind. In the worst case, the desired character of a guitar gets lost. Or you start tinkering with the sound in the recording studio under time pressure, which is unlikely to please the other band members. And in addition, valuable time is lost in the studio. The cost for the recordings increase due to the unnecessary delay, and the mixing engineer is unnecessarily annoyed. But there is another reason why you should think about your guitar sound in advance. As a guitarist, you should be able to reproduce the sound you want. And yes, I know, it sounds like another low brainer. But then at least you can't say I didn't tell you. If your recordings take several days and you have to re record a guitar part, you should be able to set the same sound again. In the age of digital amps, preamps, and digital floor pedals, this is no problem. You simply save the settings. The same applies to software plugins.
Software plugins, amp simulations.
I can literally feel the piercing and reproachful looks of the thoroughbred tube amp faction. However, if you're still using manually adjustable amps, you should at least take a photo of the amp settings or stick masking tape on the amps and label it. The positioning of the amp in the room and the position of the microphone can also be decisive for the sound, depending on the size and type of the studio. However, it's not just the sound that you should be able to reproduce if necessary, but also, and this brings us to my third and final tip for today, your guitar playing itself as well. I know exactly what you're thinking right now. What am I going to make for dinner tonight? Just kidding. No, but joking aside, the third tip sounds like another low brainer. But honestly, maybe you've been playing your songs up and down for centuries and can get through them easily without messing up. But there's a good chance that you'll add a little variation or two with every repetition without consciously realizing it. An extra note here, a little rhythm variation there. In principle, there's nothing wrong with this. However, this could be a problem if you have to duplicate your guitar tracks, for example. I always record my electric guitar tracks twice in order to give the mixing and mastering engineer the flexibility to position the guitars in the middle of a song or to pull them outwards, which means to pan them to the right and to the left, and thus get much more wideness in the sound. So you may wonder why you don't just copy the existing track, but as crazy as that sounds, it doesn't lead to the same effect. So usually just makes the guitar sound louder and sometimes creates an unwanted chorus effect. So you actually have to record your riffs twice, really. So if the deviation is too big, individual passages may simply sound unclean or like a mistake. With rhythms, the inaccuracy can also cause some loss in the punch. Of course, some things can also be corrected afterwards in the studio software, and this is not uncommon. However, if the interventions are too strong, they will become audible at some point, and of course, the effort required for the post-production will also increase. When recording acoustic guitars, however, you can save yourself the trouble of doubling in many cases by recording the guitar with a pickup or cable and a microphone in parallel. In this case, the line-in recording of the pickups is panned to one side and the microphone recording to the other, resulting in a much broader guitar sound. Try that, the effect is surprisingly strong. I hope you enjoy the video and that it helps you prepare for your next and maybe even first recording session, and enjoy it to the fullest instead of struggling with tempo and guitar sound. I appreciate every thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to receive tips like this in the future. I've also linked my songs on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. below if you want to know what kind of music I make. So see you next time, bye bye.